Hello, this is the weekly review making sense of news and topics relevant to South Sudan and its diaspora. My name is Roger Alfred Yoron Modi. I'm the producer and host. This is a program of Star Network. Today, we are joined by the spokesperson of the National Salvation Front, also known as NAS. He's Subas Samuel Manasi, and NAS, which is which is led by General Thomas Shiroro Sokwa, is a member of the South Sudan Opposition Movement Alliance. SSOMA currently has two factions, one under Malong and General Malong and Pagana Mum. Both factions are engaged with the government in peace talks since 2019 and more formally since January 2020 under the auspices of the community of Sant'Egidio, Rome, Italy. Our discussion today will focus on one, the process under the auspices of the community of Sant'Egidio, the declaration of principles signed so far, and also this Monday's statement by President Salva Kiir during his address before the Transitional National Legislature, in which he said that the government has decided to pause the ongoing Sant'Egidio-led peace initiative. In his reasons, he said the National Salvation Front elements continue to violate the commitments made regarding the agreement on ceasefire and cessation of hostilities, and that talks will resume only when that stopped. And secondly, we will look into NAS mission and objectives. Their recently inaugurated Salvation Council, which they say is NAS highest political and legislative body. NAS strategic policy document, also a federal system model for South Sudan, and their 89-page document titled Vision for an Inclusive Modern South Sudan, the political ideology of the National Salvation Front. We will look also into NAS relations within SSOMA and the wider South Sudanese public. Welcome to the weekly review, Subas Samuel Manasi.
Thank you very much, Roger Alfred, for hosting me here. I greet you and I greet all the viewers of SOA Network.
Yes, we would like to hear from you. What can you tell the South Sudanese public about the status of the Rome peace process, which NAS and SSOMA as an alliance has been engaged in, and so far signed some declarations of principles, and also your response as a NAS to the statement by the president accusing NAS of being behind the attacks along the roads in Juba and violation of the ceasefire agreement, and also pulling out the government from the peace talks.
The Sant'Egidio-led peace process, for us, we believe it provides a good platform for addressing the root causes of the problem in South Sudan. Because remember, the current RCs, which was discussed in Khartoum, there were no opportunities according to the parties to discuss thoroughly on the issues of that affects the country. But with Sant'Egidio process, at least, we're looking at ways of discussing the real political issues in the country and come out with the modalities of addressing it. But we have a regime who is full of intransigence. They are not willing to address and provide the people of South Sudan with a genuine peace. They don't have a strategy of pacifying the country. And as such, like the first agreements, which were dishonored, we also expect that the regime are playing the same trick to dishonor the Sant'Egidio peace process. First of all, in regards to the incidences that happened in the roads between Juba and Nimule, and perhaps also between Juba and Yei, we have been in the record that we are not responsible for all this. And in fact, with all indicators, those are government forces. In fact, they are what we call the non-government, which are sponsored by the government forces who are responsible for all that. First of all, they have illegal checkpoints throughout these roads, and the other one extorting money from the motorists. And at the same time, if the motorists did not stop, they use their guns to make sure that they stop these vehicles. And you know very well that the South Sudan television has been displaying soldiers that are apprehended, kidnapping people, at the same time doing road ambushes. These are clear, the police are there, they have all this statement. So we are surprised today, the president coming out and saying he's halting the talk simply because and particularly National Salvation Front is responsible for all these things. So we are not responsible for all this. There are no evidences. In fact, when there are also evidence that shows that, in fact, those are the government forces who did it by those eyewitnesses that are within. But of course, the government is not interested in the negotiation, and therefore they are taking this opportunity to stop the whole process. But for us, we are ready. We will continue negotiating, not necessarily with the government, but with other like-minded political groups in the country on how to bring peace in the country. The government is not a priority because we know they don't have agenda for peace, but there are people, there are civil society groups, there are political organization groups in the country, there are individual opinion leaders in the country whom we can discuss with, and we can bring peace in the country.
Well, regarding the ceasefire itself, there have been mechanisms that have been agreed to on monitoring the commitments of the parties that have signed it. Your party, NAS, which is under SSOMA, SSOMA is supposed to send their representative to the Ceasefire Transitional Security Monitoring Mechanism, CTSM. And that commitment was there in the document signed in February 2020. What happened? Have you sent your representatives already? And the monitoring of the ceasefire, how is it going? Or if you have not sent, what happened? Why haven't you sent?
This body, CTSM, has been existing since the signing of the revitalized ASIS. It has been existing and has been working, but it has not stopped the war between the government and the IO forces in different locations. You know very well. They have been fighting in Upper Nile between government and IO forces. They have been fighting in Kejikeji. All this time, there's been fighting, and CTSM is existing. It has not stopped any the stubbornness and the aggression of the government. So even if we send people to CTSM now, it will not stop the government from aggressing our position. That's one. Number two, yes, during the what we call Rome resolution, when we signed Rome resolution, there was an article that demand us to be part of CTSM for purposes of monitoring and verification of allegations of attack and counter-attack and the like. But that article is joined with the fact that we need to agree and sign what we call declaration of principle. Because once you sign declaration of principle, then it provides you with the momentum to discuss genuinely on the political issues in the country, agree on the political issues that can address the root causes of the conflict in South Sudan. So the most important thing, it is not about joining CTSM, but the most important thing is agreeing on the roadmap that we can use for addressing the root causes of the conflict in South Sudan, and that is agreeing on what we call the declaration of principle as far as the negotiation is concerned.
Now, you already we didn't see a document officially provided to the public, but there was that ceremony whereby your leaders, together with those of the government, announced reaching an agreement on the declaration of principles. So the declaration of principles is there, we thought, and what is going to be the next step? What is supposed to be the next step if it is already signed, and if not signed, it was just reached verbally. Also, what is going to be the way forward, and your expectation also from next rounds of peace talks that may possibly occur?
We do not agree on the declaration of principle. There are 4 outstanding issues that were not agreed upon, and this is simply because the government is not willing to discuss on those particular issues that we disagreed upon. So I was even surprised to see when the day before yesterday, when the president was addressing the parliament and he was saying that we have agreed on the declaration of principle. We have not agreed on the declaration of principle. I think he's addressing the parliament from an informed point of view as far as Sant'Egidio peace process is concerned. What is at stake now is for the talks to resume once the declaration of principles are signed. Then the next step will be the workshop for the military to understand the process of this citizen, how to operate, and then they will be part of the monitoring and verification. And of course, they are not going to be in Juba. They're going to be located in places where we are pending addressing all the root causes of the problem that are already there. So and then once it's done, then we'll also resume negotiation on the real political issues that affects the country. That could have been the timetable or the schedule that is supposed to be at hand. But of course, the government is not interested, first of all, in the whole concept of the Declaration of Principles, because I remember in Ethiopia, when the SPLM-IO brought the issue of the Declaration of Principles, they declined. Why? Because they wanted an open peace process where they can shift a political position from one state to another, change peace delegation, and come out with different things just to confuse the whole process. But our intention here is to come with how many years we'll continue following that roadmap.
Well, I talked to an observer who analyzed the process, but he preferred to remain anonymous. He argued that the Rome peace process is just a necessary diversion that both parties, the government and the opposition, the South Sudan Opposition Movement Alliance, just started it, like, on one hand, to give legitimacy to the issues that are going on. So in one end, you have the government saying they are protecting this and that, they're fighting for this and that, and also the opposition saying they are fighting also for this cause. And both parties seem to be, he said, using these processes to appear that something is being done, there is a peace process and there's these grievances, there's this problem. What would be your response to that, that they say that there's no genuine, there's no genuine process going on? Actually, it's just to divert people.
Actually, I want to be sincere here. I want to be sincere to your viewers. The government is playing tricks in time with the people of South Sudan, playing tricks with the international community, playing tricks with the region. Look at the peace process that they're claiming they're implementing. By September, which is already by September, any of these days, what we call the transitional period will have been over. And imagine, for the last 3 years, their parliament was just inaugurated on 30th. So you can see how intransigent the government is in implementing the agreement. So this is what they have been doing. They are not interested in any peace. The peace that they want, it must be a peace in terms of the Salva Kiir regime. If they are the upper hand, they continue with their dictatorial tendencies in Juba. They continue with their looting. They continue with the killing of the civilians. They continue robbing, land grabbing, all those things, those evils that they're doing. Those are the kind of agreement that they wanted, to give them power and upper hand to continue with whatever they are doing. So on our side, of course, that's why we're not giving in to any cheap, what we call confidence building, to any cheap propaganda here by there by government that they are implementing. First of all, if they wanted to assure the whole people, they should have shown it by implementing what already they have at hand. But you see the mess, that they have been doing throughout. So to tell you the truth, they are not sincere. They don't have a genuine intention to bring peace to the country. And that's why they do a lot of politics. You can see one of the strategies they're doing, they keep on changing delegations from one group to another, and they come out with a different program, different agenda, just to confuse the whole process. And that's why we're saying we need to be consistent. We need to agree on the real framework of the political issues that need to be discussed, and that could be the roadmap that we will follow from now to the end. But then, of course, they are still very flexible, and that's why you can see if there are certain commentators who are saying that the whole thing is just a ploy, it is just playing around with the minds of the psychology of the people, but nothing is working out. In fact, that is a part of the regime throughout all this time.
But also on the side of the opposition, they were of the that observer was of the view that also the opposition is gaining legitimacy through this process, that the peace talk being negotiated, and at the same time, these attacks, they are countering or they are attacking or they are fighting for this cause and that cause. All this that they say it is a win-win for both sides is a kind of beneficial for the two groups, both the government and opposition. And in fact, with regards to the issues in the country, yes, there is even before the war, which NAS joined, and even before the 2013 crisis, there were already grievances on issues of governance, and the country was in problem, and even there were other rebel groups before. The issue here is about, there is a problem that needs solution, but then in the absence of the problem, there are of course a lot of parties, opposition, and some of them are even armed. And it's very easy, it's very possible for them to cite the problems that exist as their reason for the pursuance of what they are doing. Now, in these two scenarios, what would you say with regards to the opposition using the problems to gain legitimacy, and at the same time, the solution? How quick can solution be possibly found so that the issue is not only about any group, because we can have a lot of groups coming up. Even right now, there are several groups that came up. There's a group that broke out from NAS. There's other groups that also declared themselves. So this cycle, we can continue having them even when your party is in government and your party is even leading, but you can still continue to have groups that continue to come up. So how can we move away from this issue of having problems that really need to be addressed, so that if there are parties that try to take up arms, people will see there is no reasonability in what they are saying because the problems have been addressed. So these are two scenarios. Yeah.
Part of the regime strategy is to, while pretending to be negotiating with the opposition group, and part of the strategy is they clandestinely approaches this opposition group differently to cause rift within the ranks and files of this opposition group, to cause a split such that they face military and political groups that are weak, and then they such that to maintain the status quo. So these confusions that are happening, for instance, in the opposition groups, are part of the government strategy to cause all these confusions, including the IO, who are partners in the agreement. So all these misunderstandings within the IO are part of the regime. We are not gaining any legitimacy from this intelligence from our consistencies inside the country, our members. Those are the people who provide us with mandate to represent them. So if there is any legitimacy we have, it's from our members who are part and parcel of that country, who are also suffering from the whole process, but not from any intelligences in the negotiations or in the like. Number three, Roger, you should know, we in SSOMA, as well as the National Salvation Front, we have a political program, and we're using this political program to engage any group in negotiation. To engage, we offer them what we have, and I think you have come through most of our areas that we have been discussing about. So in areas of governance, in areas of peace and reconciliation, in areas of security building, in areas of building a new consciousness in the country, we have all these programs. So it is not a matter of searching for peace out of blue, but we have a solution that we can provide. Unlike the government, who sometimes goes to this negotiation with no position paper, simply because they have nothing to offer, because they cannot convince us of anything that they can do differently to bring peace in South Sudan. For the last 16 years, for instance, since 2005, when the Comprehensive Peace Agreement was signed, that government has been there in Juba. Now, a child which was born in 2005, it is now a 16-year-old boy or girl. So a 16 boy and girl cannot differentiate currently what exactly this SPLM government is doing as far as the government is concerned in South Sudan. So we have a program, we have an agenda that
yes, talking about
we're
that,
ready to provide.
Talking about that, let's let you take us through the 89-page document titled "Vision for an Inclusive Modern South Sudan: The Political Ideology of the National Salvation Front." Give us a summary of that document.
The document, the vision, NAS vision for an inclusive modern South Sudan, is actually a political ideology of the National Salvation National Salvation Front, and it covers a lot of areas. First of all, it defines what National Salvation Front is all about. It provides the vision of National Salvation Front. It provides the mission of National Salvation Front. It provides the values of National Salvation Front, and then the key areas, particularly addresses on the National Salvation Front perspective, the root causes of the conflict in the country. And then it went further to prescribe a solution to these problems that are there. And then, of course, if it defines the character of National Salvation Front, what is it all about? So it is a document which is open to the public. If you wanted to know about National Salvation Front, you go throughout this document and you'll find that exactly we are not only entity that is purely looking for power, but it is actually an entity that wanted to provide a genuine solution to the total stability of this country called Republic of South Sudan.
What, in the opinion of the National Salvation Front, are the root causes of the conflict?
Come again?
What, in the opinion of National Salvation Front, are the root causes of the conflict that National Salvation Front would like to be addressed?
There are many issues that can be classified as the root causes of the conflict. First of all, we have we have failed as a country to forge a common South Sudanese national identity. That is one of the root cause of the problem. The country is just fragmented. We just live as a bunch of tribes, as a bunch of groups with different perception, with different directions, and with that is not a healthy situation to a common country. We have seen how countries are, even in the region. In the region, what defines the states, thank God we are part of East Africa Community now. We have known what defines some of these states in East Africa. When you take, for instance, in Tanzania, it is very hard to define from Tanzania. They only identify themselves as Tanzanian. In South Sudan, where we have a president who subscribed to his tribe, and you can see his appointments all favoring his tribe. You can see in the army is predominantly from his tribe. Everything, and even our representative abroad, predominantly his people. So you can see this, and therefore, what do you think will be the feeling of other people? Other people definitely will not be all right. Another area that we have seen, there is an
but
absence of the political will.
the issue of the army, the arguments have been that they were using the hierarchy of the army, the SPLA. So the promotions were they said they were based on the seniority rather than the ethnicities.
No, yes, the aspect of seniority, is there, but then usually in other scenarios, when you realize that the army is completely dominated by a particular tribe, you have to come out with reforms whereby in the lower echelons you have to make sure that there is a policy of integrating the army at the lower echelon, such that when time comes, you have a mixed generation of officers that come from different groups that takes over the government, that takes over the hierarchy of the military. So this has happened in many countries, but unlike in ours, instead in the lower echelons and even the new recruitment that is coming, it is completely dominated by a particular thing. So you don't see the aspect of seniority here playing any role. It is a clear aspect of domination which is in play. And of course, the second aspect here is the absence of political will for good governance and inclusiveness. You can see all this time for the last 16 years, there's no good governance. And we have seen in Juba how corruption has been playing around. And according to Transparency International, South Sudan has been actually competing in the second and the first place throughout all this time, simply because this favored group of people, both political elite and its tribal elements, dominates and corrupt the system, and they do whatever they want. Now you can see developmental-wise, for the last 16 years, we are not able to build roads, we are not able to provide water even in Juba, we are not able to even come out with a good educational policy, health services in the country. Things are all in a mess, but they're there. There are resources. South Sudan, by the way, as far as resources concerned, if anything, it might be a second in East Africa, maybe after Kenya, in terms of resources. But now, where is this resources going? These resources goes to individuals. So this absence of political will for good governance and inclusiveness is responsible for all these factors. We have issues to do with judiciary. Our judiciary is not independent, and that's why, for instance, in Juba and other areas, you can lose your property, but there is no system, there is no judiciary, there is no court that can stand for those who lost their properties or anything. We have seen a situation where citizens from neighboring countries who goes to South Sudan and do business there, at the end of the day, they fall victim of fraud. They lose all their properties and the like, but there is no judicial system that can represent them and talk on their behalf. All those things have been imposing. And democratic imposition is a centralized system of governance. You see, the government is centralized in the few, and that's why you can see the whole states. You can see the whole Payams, the Bomas, Bayam and Bomas and counties, no development at all. So people are migrating from these areas to Juba because this is where the money is. This is where power is being allocated to the people. So these are some of the things and many things that we identify them as the root causes of the problem. And in our discussion in Roma, we said, let us visit this thing. Let us visit some of these root causes of the problem, and we address them, and we come out with a solution of how we can minimally reduce problems in our country and go forward and focus on the development, peace, and prosperity in the country.
Talking about those root causes and also the issue of building a national army, the revitalized agreement, which NAS pulled out from during its negotiations, has made much more detailed processes than the previous agreement that was in place, the 2015 agreement. So that agreement has made very good or more advanced criteria and procedures for building a national army in South Sudan, even though up to now it is not fully implemented. And people can also possibly say that the fact that some groups remain out of the agreement, that also has impacted in the implementation of that agreement, the security arrangement, because all these parties have been holding arms, and if others decided to remain outside and others are inside, so the issue of unifying forces become difficult, because it is seen as another way of being taken advantage of, so that also other groups can also use the issue of holding arms to also undo any other gains that may be achieved. But in fact, in terms of building the national army, though a party did not agree with the agreement that is put in place politically, the process regarding building the national army, your party was part of it, of the national security arrangements, and they were okay with the arrangements being put in place. What different is your party now and the process through the Rome initiative is bringing in terms of building the national army for South Sudan? Your ideas on how best South Sudan can build a national army that is professional and that will be for the interests of the people of South Sudan.
By the way, during the discussion in Khartoum, especially on the security arrangement, it was led by General Thomas Rilo, and what was there in the ISIS were part of the ideas that he has contributed, and there was a serious argument in the discussion. He's an expert in security, so he contributed a lot for that. The difference now is on the process and the actual implementation of the what has been agreed upon. First of all, and that's why the points of differences comes about. First of all, security arrangement is a call for any for implementation of and successful implementation of any agreement, and ideally, it is not about rushing to Juba and begin implementing the other part, the other chapters of the agreement. But ideally, it should have been, first of all, managing the security file. Managing the security file. How do you do this? This is the process that all the forces are supposed to go to cantonment, not only the opposition, but even including the national army. They are supposed to go to the cantonment, because the idea is there was no national army. That was the bench line. There is no national army. What we have there are conglomeration of the militia who are allied to individual leaders in the country. So if there's a thing, then all of us has to go to cantonment, and then the process of reintegrations, the process of screening, and all this pre-security arrangement has to take place in that place. And then you come out now with a process of identifying what could have been now the nuclear of the new force. Now this nuclear of the new force has to be trained, had to be mixed. And then after training and mixed, that of course represent the diversities of the whole people of South Sudan, then they are deployed. They are deployed to the key areas, to the cities. Then they will become part and parcel of the security arrangement. Then the leaders, therefore will come to the country to begin implementing. Meaning you have already neutralized that element of having a tribal security controlling situation in the country. Therefore, you now have a confidence for any person now to go to the country and begin working towards the implementation of peace process. But because some elements are interested in power, then they need to have these national institutions that are responsible for governance of the country, that is responsible for the security of the country, that are responsible for law and order in the country, and then they put their interests first, regardless of this institution. That's why when they went into the country, they did not get the space to practice free democratic engagement with their citizens. And that's why you can see even some of the partners in the peace, they are not allowed to visit their forces in the area. And that's why the problem up to now has existed. So the difference now is we are discussing in terms of the content and in terms of the procedures. So how to implement what have been agreed upon in letter and in spirit. So it is not a matter of jumping. It's not a matter of jumping a step here and there that you may think you can be able to implement a successful security arrangement process. So, and this is where the problem is started, and this is also the cause of the main reason behind the failure of this agreement called revitalize ISIS. So in our part, we are committed to ensure that each and every South Sudanese who wanted to serve in the security must see himself represented in the security forces, such that we reduce this threat, this element of the forces being dominated by other people. We must also see into it that both the opposition and the government are all condoned, and then the process of screening and everything is done jointly and the like. We must also see that all the tribes in South Sudan are represented in this noble institution, such that each and everybody should see himself represented there, such that no politician will, at the end of the day, use the army to achieve his political objectives. That, if we're able to do that, will have reduced some of these mistakes that are there. In this agreement, which is failing, some of these technicalities are not provided for. But in the SSOMA initiative, we are committed that some of this has to be implemented. If it is not, then there is no need for us to be dragged in and also be confused like this, some of our colleagues who are now doing nothing in Juba.
And regarding NAS, there are some people who have been saying NAS is an organization that is for Equatoria, or is standing for Equatoria, or is against other tribes. What would you say regarding that? And also, recently there was a letter circulating on social media that Ian Matthew, who was a member of NAS, has resigned from NAS, citing nepotism and so on. So has he resigned? Is that true? Or also, and also a response regarding NAS objectives that is against other tribes that are non-Equatorians?
General Ian Matthew is part and parcel of National Salvation Front. He did not resign. He is still the deputy chief of staff for moral orientation. That resignation letter is crafted by the enemies of National Salvation Front. And even you can see the letter itself, the signature is my signature. The signature was my signature, and the stamp was even mine. The heading paper was mine. So they just, I think, electronically manipulated one of our press release, and then they wrote those things of theirs inside there. So those are just part of the strategy to cause confusion within the ranks. I remember I told you in the beginning of this program that the regime intention is to confuse, to create cracks within the ranks and files of any political group. That has been what they've been doing with IO and other group and the like. So Ian is part and parcel of our movement up to now, active, doing his assignment as usual. When you equate National Salvation Front as an Equatorian movement simply because General Thomas is from Equatoria, so it is like we are also confirming that President Salva Kiir from Barghazal, therefore SPLM belongs to Barghazal.
Hello? Hello, I'm not getting you. Hello, are you getting me?
Yeah, of course, the first Vice President, Riek Machar from Upper Nile, belongs to given the benefits that they're getting, given the benefits and the privileges and the like, yes, we can ascertain that. But National Salvation Front is a national movement. It's a national revolutionary movement which is striving to change the ills that is happening in the country. In our rules and regulations as National Salvation Front, this is one of our basic documents that we have that regulates our behavior, regulates our judgment towards each other within the movement, and also define our membership. Our membership is open. Our membership is open to all South Sudanese who has attained the age of 18. You can become a member of National Salvation Front and participate and compete in any position within the movement, either within diaspora or inside the country. And when we have our Chief of Staff, General Faiz Futur from Western Barghazal, then you can wonder that he didn't read our document well if we are an Equatorial movement. So he's there by mistake, or he doesn't know what is going on. Those of you who met you from Upper Nile, they're there by mistake if we are just an Equatorial movement. But of course, Roger, we have appealed, our messages appealed to the people of South Sudan. We're receiving the feedback from our people. And the regime agents, security agents, they're following it and they know. Some of them are also pretending to be NAS members because they want to know what is going on. And they are taking these messages back to their people that these people are gaining ground. So how do you to demobilize us? To demobilize us, you have to come out with this regional rhetoric. You have to come out with this attacking individual personalities, like General Thomas and what that he's corrupt, he has gone away with a lot of money, but the facts and records are clear. Whoever has a proof, he has to prove it, and everybody should know whether these things are right or not. So all these things are campaigns, propaganda campaigns, to make sure that they disconnect us with the larger consistencies in the South Sudan. But of course, you cannot compare light and dark. At the end of the day, light will always prevail, and that's why this document that you mentioned earlier, these are witnessed. People had to read them and see whether we are a regional organization or we are beyond that.
In March this year, NAS announced inaugurating what is called a National Salvation Council, which they say is a NAS, which your party says NAS highest political and legislative body. What can you tell us about that body?
Yeah, in 2018, we had a leadership meeting in Ethiopia. And in that leadership meeting in Ethiopia, it resolved that NAS should immediately engage in the restructuring of the movement, as opposed to the regime policies of leading by individuals. So if we wanted to be an alternative of the failed regime in Juba, then we must do things differently. So one of the things that any future government, any pro-future government in Juba must do is to strengthen, is to come out of the policy of strengthening institutions of governance. So these institutions of governance are the ones that are empowered, and then at the same time are the one that delivers services to the people, are the one representing the people, at the same time are the one defending the rights and obligations, responsibilities of the people. So we in National Salvation Front agreed that we have to come out with the institution. So this institution must continue to begin coming out with the policies and ideas This institution should be the one providing leadership to the movement, should be able to evaluate and monitor the performance of the movement and come out with the ideas that people need. Chairman will be there providing direction, providing leadership, handling the mantle of the movement, but we must have an institution that generates ideas, that debates over the ideas, and provide the executive, all the leaders, ready-made things that need to be implemented. So one of these institutions is, of course, National Salvation Council, which in March was integrated. It's composed of 64 members. So these 64 members are drawn from the whole of South Sudan.
I can see 61. Is it the document says 61? Is it 64, 61?
Yeah, rather 6. Yes. Yeah. So it is drawn from the whole of 61. It is drawn from the whole of the people of South Sudan. So this body is the highest political organ of the movement at the moment. So their role is to deliberate over various issues of the movement and come out with a resolution. So they act like the same time as the legislative body of the movement, and they also at the same time they act as a body that monitors the performance and the failures of the movement at the same time.
How is the relations of NAS with the rest of the SOMA, the South Sudan Opposition Movement Alliance, the ones that SOMA is in, and also with the other faction of General Malong and Pagana Mum? Is there a possibility of even reuniting one again, or with coming together the two factions again?
One of our strategy as the National Salvation Front to bring change in the country is, of course, we have almost 4 to 5 strategies. So one of the strategy is to build coalitions and alliance with the like-minded political groups. And the purpose for this strategy, we know South Sudan is a very diverse country, society. We have different regions, we have different political ideologies, we have different tribes, and different sections that defines this great country. So there is no way that you can come out with one absolute political thinking or one absolute point of view to govern this country. So there must be a way of engaging with others and see the level of differences that you have and merge and come together, narrow your differences and see whether you can have a point that you can jointly work together and advance the cause of the struggle in the country. So this has been the narrative that inform us to advocate for alliances. And of course, and this is why this kind of narrative gave birth to South Sudan Opposition Movement Alliance. It is an alliance of a willing group who are ready to work together. It's an alliance of groups who are governed by one political ideology and thinking. It is an alliance that put the interests of the people of South Sudan first, and the aspect of individual leadership and the like, it's back at the corner. It is an alliance that wanted to address the root causes of the conflict in South Sudan. It is an alliance that wants to make sure that each and every part of South Sudan benefits from the independence dividends of this country called Republic of South Sudan. Now, given that understanding and view, this group came together and crafted a charter, and this charter became a political document that defines the work of our group from time to time. So unfortunately, somewhere in the middle, Malong Group, which is also part of this alliance, started having a parallel, thinking and engagement, which is completely contradicting with the charter that we have, because in the charter defines the responsibility of each member within the alliance. So when you begin dealing with the issues of peace, when you begin dealing with the common enemy in your own way, without the charter, without the consent of the group, then I think that amounts to insubordination, that amounts to betrayal, and that amounts to the breach of trust. So that actually the genesis of the whole problem. But he's still continuing and arguing that he's right to do whatever he wants. And because of that, then of course the rest of the members sat, and then that led to the suspension of his group. And of course, the real SPLM, which is completely different from Malong group, also supported them and said, no, these people should just not be suspended. They should be allowed to continue and the like. So we said, no, we need to be rule governed. We need to be rule governed. Otherwise, what is the justification for us to create change in the country if we cannot exercise tolerance within ourselves, the way we do our job? Then meaning the people will not trust us, because we can also go to Juba and do the same mistakes that we've been doing.
I remember it seemed that they group of Malong denied engaging the government separately at that time when they were suspended. And I don't know, did you give them the opportunity to be heard?
No, yes, he can. In the media, he can deny. He can deny that. That is purposely for public relation purposes. But there are letters for that effect, that correspondences for that effect, that justifies the engagement. So that's basically the reason behind all these kind of things.
But in case you people are able to resolve that in the future, you may come back together as one, right? As SSOMA.
I'm not in a position to answer that. I'm not in a position to answer that, because I don't sit in the SSOMA, in the SSOMA structure. I don't sit there. That's the decision purely for the leadership of the SSOMA.
Well, regarding being the non-signatories of the agreement, the revitalized agreement on the resolution of the conflict in South Sudan, there is something here we saw recently in the press release by SSOMA, that the term whole-earth groups, SSOMA and those parties that have not signed the agreement think it is derogatory, and some of us even happen to use it because we sometimes, and the meaning of the word whole out in the dictionary is we didn't see it derogatory in the sense that it was referring to parties who did not agree with the agreement that was in place. So what do you say? You feel the term is derogatory, and how? Because there are many people who still use that term, whole-earth groups.
I remember when we first met with the government in Juba, rather in Rome, in Sant'Egidio, there was a heated debate on how do we address ourselves. And then until we agreed that for purposes of building confidence and talking to each other under Sant'Egidio process, we need to refrain from this derogatory naming. We cannot refer to the government in Juba as a regime, or as a failed government, or like that. We need to call them as a government of the Republic of South Sudan, or now for this matter, as a revitalized government of transitional government of national unity. And then they are supposed to refer to us as a non-signatories to the revitalized agreement. initially, they've been referring to us as a holdout group. They've been referring to us as a terrorist. They have been referring to us as outlaws and the like. So all these things in that discussions were harmonized. But then they still continue. They still continue calling us these names, terrorists, what, they still continue. And of course, that's the reason why we also resorted calling them regime, started calling them failed government, corrupt, kleptocratic, and all those evil and bad things that this government represents. We thought that we can be able to build the confidence and at least politically hide some of the genuine names that they have given to themselves for the last 16 years, but they are still insisting, calling us what they are. And that's why when they call us negatives, we also call them exactly what they represent at the moment. So when that statement from SSOMA came out as a derogatory, that's actually based on this particular reasoning.
As we go to the conclusion, there is this quote from the president's statement before the national, his address before the Transitional National Legislature. He said, talks with SSOMA will only resume after they cease from killing the innocent and show their commitment to documents they have signed in Rome. It is only when they meet these conditions that genuine dialogue with them will resume, unquote. To the government of South Sudan, to the people of South Sudan, and to the community of Sant'Egidio, which is leading the talks, what is NAS response? What is NAS message in response to that statement?
It is very unfortunate that the government has chosen the path of violence again to address the problem in South Sudan. This statement did not come out of blue, but this statement is it has a connotation with the ongoing military plans and strategies that they have. They have amassed troops in Yei, in Lanya, in Lobonok, and all these locations. They wanted to make another round of offensive. But of course, we are ready to defend our positions, just as previously we did so. So this statement is a cover up. Is a cover up for political, rather for the military plans that they've already set up beforehand. We want to assure the people of South Sudan that the government military strategies of addressing the problem in the country will not succeed. It will backfire. And as soon as they will start this, you will also hear them changing their narrative that people has to go back and negotiate. We are confident they will do that. It is only that they are thinking they have got some forces now ready and they can be able to score whatever they want, but it will not succeed no matter what. So it is good they declared it publicly and also in the parliament. Everywhere has known it is now a policy, and it is not us. Whatever level of violence that will happen, it will not be under our term. It will be under the term of Salva Kiir himself and his government, because this is what he has that he has declared. Number two, we have been on record. We are not responsible for any attacks in the roads. It is the government who is responsible for that. So they are also trying to find reasons to justify, some reason to hide their faces from the condemnation that the government has in fact failed and collapsed in providing security to the people of South Sudan. Lastly, for us, the government does not have political solution to the conflict in the country. We have seen how SPLM is fighting among themselves, and they are not able to resolve their own problem. So if you're not able to resolve your own problem, how do you think you can resolve the problem of the whole country? But good enough, South Sudan is not lacking political groups that has solution to address the question of South Sudan. How do you safeguard this country and move forward? And that's why we are still open to all groups in the country. We can engage them and talk about peace in different ways. And we can bring peace to the country. So this is statement which is made by Salva Kiir is a mere statement. It is just like many rhetorics. It is a passing cloud, actually. I can remember it's a passing cloud. It has passed by his making it that statement in the parliament. It will have no any other impact. But what we know with this regime, they will one day come back again and say, let us go to the Rome again and negotiate. You remember the issue of 28 states, how the spokesman of Salva Kiir said, there is no power under sun that can make president to change his mind regarding the number of states. The following day he changed. So let me tell you, these are just a passing cloud statement in J1, which are thoughtless. They did not thought about them critically. They thought that they can easily convince those innocent MPs who doesn't know what is going on and confuse them with this statement and give them some few hand claps there, and that's all. But the way forward in the country is through dialogue. The way forward in our country is through addressing the root causes of the conflict in the country. The way forward in the South Sudan is to make sure that we honestly accept the responsibility that we have failed to govern this country, and therefore there is need for total change. That's the only way forward. So any statement that is there, we can just regard them as a passing cloud. It doesn't have any meaning at all, and it will not contribute to the peace in the country.
You can remember also NAS, the SSOMA, the South Sudan Transitional Movement Alliance, boycotted a round of peace talks in May this year after citing assassination of its general, and we also made demands regarding that. So you can see that also both sides have been, the same thing the government is doing, the same thing, or you think it's not the same because you also boycotted the peace talk?
We did not boycott the peace process, but we complained to Sant'Egidio that the government is sending his agents across the region to intimidate, and in fact, for the case of Abraham, assassinate some of the SSOMA leadership in the region. And for this matter, SSOMA has decided to retract all the cadres in the region, those who slid into the country where our forces are, and there are those who have actually moved further away from the region for security reasons. And therefore, calling them back to go for negotiation, it will not be easy under the present circumstances where the security is in stake. So we need assurance that all will be okay for our members to be passing around the region and the like without any intimidation. That was a complaint which was set to Sant'Egidio, and they have accepted it. And even the members of TRECA has also accepted that, and the envoys have also accepted that. And there was a meeting which was held through the envoys and even the members of the TRECA and Sant'Egidio to discuss on this security issue. So that was purely on the security issues. It is not avoidance of the peace process.
Sant'Egidio, I have seen in a news report yesterday by Radio Tommaso, they said they will send a delegation to Juba to resolve this issue of President Kiir government suspending their participation in the talks. What one message would you have to that delegation that is going to Juba from Sant'Egidio in their attempt to resolve this issue?
That is not our problem. I think it is Sant'Egidio's problem, because it is Salva Kiir who moved out from the peace process. So I think Sant'Egidio must have to open a peace negotiation with Salva Kiir. They have to negotiate and agree on terms with him. For us, we don't have any problem with that. We are waiting for him. If he wants, let him come. If he doesn't want, it's also upon him. So we don't have a message on that. I think it is after the mediators to talk to him, and if he has some reasons beyond what he claims that we are the one responsible for all these attacks, if he has some proof, let him prove. Let him prove for that matter. But for us, we know they are responsible for this, and we don't have any problem for him not going to Rome, for him moving out, for him joining, or for whatever he wants. He's free to do whatever he wants. So we also came across this message on social media. So we're looking forward to see what will be the engagement and what will be the outcome of the engagement. For us, we are committed to bring peace to the people of South Sudan, with or without Kiir.
Well, with that, we have come to the end of the program, the weekly review, making sense of news and topics relevant to South Sudan and its diaspora. To our viewers, thank you very much for following us, and subscribe to the channel to keep in touch with the program, and follow us also on Facebook, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Suba Samuel Manasi, for being on the program.
Thank you very much, Roger, for hosting me, and also for your audience for listening to SSOMA Network. We look forward for more interaction. Thank you.
Welcome.